everybody, and welcome to this week's installment of the Weekly Brew. We got a lot going on. I've got another special guest coming on. It'll be Mike Lowe, the general manager of the Angels and commissioner of SSG. So first off, I want to get on some announcements for the league. Make sure again everybody is exporting once a week. We don't want to have any issues so close to the season starting. So again, export once a week. Also, uh, we have the Stats Plus website is up. Get up there, go check it out, get signed in, tell Paul who you are, type thing. Tell him that you've done it, and he'll link your team so that we can get that taken care of. Because again, once this season starts, the draft will be available once the draft comes out, and we're gonna just fly open like that. Um, so that's some announcements, guys. All right, let's look on to some transactions that we had this week. We got John Farrell. He's the new manager in for the Brewers. He's got a 3-year deal for about $1 million a year. And I don't understand why the firing of Ron Remnick happened, but it did. So it's one of those that really doesn't make much sense to me. If we look at the last 3 years, or since SSG has been around, he has made the playoffs the first 2 years of the live league in 2015, 16, and 16 had one of the best records in baseball. So it didn't make sense that just because of one bad year he got fired. But again, he is a good little guy. I would love to have had him, but the next announcement pertains to the Braves. Buck Showalter, he is out. He is out at the Braves. He didn't stay there long. Um, if you want more information about why he's out, I've got it on the website. Go check it out. Anyways, we signed Bill Kruger. Braves signed Bill Kruger at a 2-year deal, just under $400,000 a year. Sabermetric type guy, brand new manager. So they're taking a chance on him. Then we had some free agent signings that happened this past weekend. We have Brandon Moss. He signed a 2-year deal with the Angels for about $4 million. And then we got Jason Mott. He signed a 1-year deal with the Padres for $1,500,000. Then you have the Padres. 2 trades are showing up. The first one with the Spiders, where they sent Will Myers over to the Spiders. In return, they got Cole Hamels, Ken Walker, and Thad Jones. The other trade that was posted, about a week or 2 weeks ago, was the Cubs with the Padres. The Cubs finally sent over Albert Amora to the Padres, and the Padres sent back Walker Weekle. So again, those are what's been going on with transactions. Not a whole lot, nothing special, just a few trades, just a few signings, nothing big. I do think actually the firing of Rennick is pretty big, and then the trade for Amora is pretty big. Once you kind of think about it, he's a top 100 prospect. But again, guys, we want to go ahead and move on to the next segment. Like I said, I've got Mike Lowe with me today. He is the general manager of the Angels. He is the commissioner of SSG Baseball. He runs the entire platform that we have, this community of Sin Sports Global. Mike Lowe's the man. He's the guy that did everything. So I want to introduce Mike. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, Zach. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk some baseball.
Oh, I love talking baseball. I love talking baseball. And yeah, Mike, I mean, we had a lot going on lately, but it is the off season. So I'm kind of, a little bored. So I'd like to talk about the 2017 season, if you don't mind, man. How did 2017 go for you?
2017 was a really strange year for the Angels. The year prior, we were in the World Series. We lost the World Series in 6 games to Colorado. And going into that next season, I was expecting this team to, at the very least, make a wild card spot or, again, at least make the playoffs. And that's not what happened. And it was a strange season because there wasn't any one thing that I can point at and say, well, this is what happened. There was a number of things, and some of them were really odd. Probably the least odd is Mike Trout was hurt, I should say, for, if I recall, at least a month or so. And team struggled during that time. But really the odd things that happened with this team, I don't even really know exactly why. I mean, I think first and foremost, we had a very competitive division. I think the AL West is the strongest division top to bottom in our league the last couple of years, and certainly probably again this year in 2018. So that was part of it. It was very, very competitive division. I think having another odd thing was that we had really high chemistry. Our chemistry was through the roof on this team, and yet we just kept losing. And if you look at it from a statistical standpoint, hitting was our Achilles heel. We pitched pretty well, and we have a fairly pitcher-friendly ballpark, but we pitched pretty well, and we just weren't hitting the ball. I mean, we just had like the slugging percentage. We were right at the bottom of the American League in both slugging and on base, and that was really surprising. We had players who really dropped off, like Pujols, who in years prior had still produced pretty well, and I really do believe Pujols can bounce back. I still think he's going to be an above-average player this season. So we'll see if we can get some guys just to kind of bring it all together. Pujols will be in a much less kind of pressure role. He'll be a little bit lower in the lineup, it looks, to start the season here. But yeah, there was just a number of things that really surprised us about 17. So overall, Zach, to answer your question, it surprised me in a bad way. It wasn't a good year for us. We finished last in the division. And it was weird because, right up to the trade deadline, I kept looking at the team saying, well, geez, they're going to turn it around. They're going to start winning. And I'd watch all my replays and, lo and behold, there's another loss. And it was just, if we score 7 runs, we lose 8-7. And if we scored, just 3, we'd lose 4-3. And there was just a lot of games like that where we just couldn't get over that hump. So I'm really hoping 18 brings us something different.
I absolutely agree. A lot went on that past season. You had a lot of injuries, as you spoke of. I'll have to say I kind of relate with the Braves. We lost a lot of players last year, and it really pushed us back. I thought I could have competed, but injuries came into play. Now, with chemistry, that does surprise me. Not many people, I would think, really look into chemistry, how the team really meshes. But it's surprising to say that you had the chemistry as high as you had it, but still weren't able to pull stuff together. So just bad luck, bad season, kinda, and the next year you just hope to turn it around, obviously, but since you want to turn it around, let's see about some of these signings that you had. You had about 3 big signings to me, and of course another one we'll talk about a little bit later. But you got Carlos Santana, he's a big signing. You got Jose Martinez, a big signing, international signing. Then you got Brandon Moss just the other day, but we don't want to bring about him. I would like to talk about the other one you had in Brett Anderson. So 3 good signings you have. You want to tell us how you think they should impact your season this year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think with those 3 guys in particular, I actually have 3 very different expectations for them. Starting with Carlos Santana, he's a veteran. And, we gave up a first-round pick to sign him, and that was very intentional. He was our top target in the offseason. As I mentioned, our on base was low, our slugging was low, and this is a guy he's a switch hitter. He can play multiple positions. He's able to bring us a bat that we really missed last year. And with a guy like Trout in our lineup, this allows us to bump Trout lower in the lineup to bat cleanup. He was batting second a lot last year. And by putting Santana in that number 2 hole now, this is going to just generate more men on base for Trout. And so my expectations for Santana are actually really high. He's a veteran. I expect him to come in here and have a close to all-star season at the very least. When we look at Jose Martinez, just on my experience with this game, out of the park baseball in particular, usually these guys don't excel, their first year. There's a bit of an adjustment period, which is realistic. We saw this with like a Hideki Matsui in real life, and certainly some of the Japanese pitchers and so on in the beginnings. And I'm expecting to see Jose Martinez probably have some learning curve a little bit as he adjusts to the league. Again, I'm still trying to decide where he will slot in the lineup, and truthfully, it'll probably fluctuate a lot throughout the season as he adjusts. Now, at the same time, Jose Miguel Fernandez, who we signed as a same situation the very first season of this league, we signed him as an international free agent. He came in right away and produced. His on-base percentage has always been outstanding. But even that, you can see his first year. He had a little bit lower than he's had now. And so, both these guys are coming into the league on the younger side. They're not 20 and 21 years old or anything like this, but they're still both before their prime. And so for Martinez, again, I have high expectations for him overall. There's a reason we went after him. But for this season, he's not someone I'm necessarily relying to, carry the torch or anything like that. As far as, Brett Anderson, same thing. Brett Anderson brought in to really fill a middle of the rotation. He was also a compensation pick, but having already lost our first round pick, it didn't cost us anywhere near as much as it would have cost someone else. And so I really like Brett Anderson. I think this gives us, if I recall, I think we have 3 lefties in the starting rotation now, which is nice. If not 4, it actually might be 4. I think it is 4. And, when I look at the team, Texas has been the best team in our division the past couple seasons, and there's no reason to think any different this year. And when I look at their lineup, they have a lot of lefty bats. And, I think in order to overtake the best, you need to be able to beat the best. And so not that we specifically crafted this team just to go after Texas, because as I mentioned, our division's good. Houston's going to be a good team, and Seattle's is managed very well and is going to be a tough team. I mean, it's a very tough division. Oakland has always been good. And so, but, looking at the Rangers, I think it's going to be interesting to kind of be able to throw lefties at them night in and night out. And I think Brett Anderson allows us to do that. So, again, Santana, high expectations, Martinez, low expectations, and at least the beginning. And Brett Anderson is kind of in the middle there. I mean, we just want him to be a middle of the rotation presence. This allows us to kind of delay some of the younger guys we have. With a lot of teams rebuilding, I mentioned in the chat yesterday that I like to look at the market. I like to play the market. And if everyone's rebuilding, there's no advantage to you also trying to rebuild, because you're buying all of the same products that everyone else is after. And there's no bargaining power whatsoever. And so I look at this as I don't want to be in a rebuild. In a city like LA with the kind of money that our budget allows, there's really no excuse for it. So it's a cliche thing to say, but we are definitely looking more at a retool situation. So expectations are different for these guys, and hopefully they can all play their specific role in this upcoming season.
Yes, I will agree with that, every bit of it. Now, I just want to touch on Santana. You had high expectations and whatnot. I mean, he shows great on base percentage. I believe you're a new modern baseball guy, so you love seeing that. I think it might be hard to see an all-star season with what you see in the past. I mean, we haven't seen an all-star caliber season since maybe his just first year and maybe his 2013, which, these are rough numbers still. But again, he definitely can be a contributor. Now, I do want to go into more depth about Jose Martinez a little bit. You talk about some of these guys; they take a little learning curve, and I think it is because in real life, and you compared it to real life Matsui, and then not Jose Fernandez for you. Jose Fernandez. If you look at this, I mean, in 2015 when you signed him, he did play a little bit of AAA ball, and before he went up to the big leagues and did contribute, like you said. But when you look at it, a guy that really reminds me is Yasiel Puig in real life. He signed that a 7-year for $42 million contract. His first entire pro ball season in the major leagues was actually in the minor leagues, and then the next year he actually started in AAA before he got his start. We have a lot of pushing in this league, and not saying that anybody's doing it in particular. I do it, I'm not going to lie, but that might be where that learning curve has to be. I mean, if we were to have a 29-year-old Jose Martinez in AA, AAA continuing to get his work in, maybe to see him in the middle of the year, he might be able to contribute more, maybe not. You never know. It's all season. It's really up to how you want to play it. But again, he can contribute, so there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And then, like you said, Brett Anderson adds to that the lefty rotation you have there. He played in that beanbox in Colorado and produced results. I mean, look at those home runs. Only 13 home runs all year last year, and that doesn't even count if home or away. So really good stuff you got. And I think those are really good signings. That's why I specifically wanted to ask you about them. But yeah, man. So, but another one of my questions, I've got Mr. Tom Winder here. He is a Rule 5 draft pick for you. I see that you have him in your rotation, and I was just seeing what you expect from this first-year rookie.
Yeah, Tom Windle is going to be in the rotation for us. He was a Rule 5 pick this year, one of 3, one of which we've already purchased the rights to. And the other two we're just expecting to really stick on the roster throughout the year, at least for now. So yeah, he's our number 5 starter going into the year, and he has not pitched in the majors. So this will be kind of his first taste of MLB action. But we're really optimistic. I like keeping the pressure low with him being our number 5 starter. And he's a lefty, so again, if he struggles, bullpen is another option for him. We have, again, a ton of lefties here with this team, which is nice because our bullpen is pretty righty heavy as far as the top talent. So Wendell's going to help solidify that rotation with the 5 starters, or the 4 lefty starters I mentioned. But there's other ways that we could utilize him if he does struggle.
Yeah, absolutely. Just having an extra guy like that, I think Wendell was a good safe Rule 5 draft pick. And honestly, if I'd have noticed him a little bit more, I might have even taken him, because I did need him with the Braves. I needed that kind of push. But I mean, he finished the year up very solid in AAA, almost a 3 ERA, 8-11, but still doesn't matter compared to just production, as in development. So really good guy, I think you got there. And like you said, if he does struggle, you do have some space in the bullpen. You're right now showing, I believe, just one lefty, or maybe there's two, Luis Avalon and Andrew Miller, that you have currently on your starting not rotation, on your 25-man roster. But of course, it'll expand. You got a lot going on in this spring training, a lot of competition. But yes, I do agree. I like Wendler. I think he's a really good player. Now, we've talked about a lot. We talked about some additions you got with Carlos Santana, Jose Martinez, Brett Anderson. I touched on Brandon Moss. You got Tom Winder. How do you think your season looks this year? What do you predict? What do you project? What do you think is going to go on with the Angels?
Yeah, again, that's a tough question because it's a tough division, as I mentioned. And so I'd like to say I expect us to be a playoff team, just like I did last year. But again, last year was a pretty humbling experience. And but I do think the team's going to be stronger. I don't think we're going to have the same run of kind of mysterious, team output. I think one of the goals I had in this team was, not overreacting, not firing everybody. I mean, you look at the hitting I mentioned, and it's easy to look at the hitting coach and say, well, what the heck's going on? But it's the same hitting coach who took us to a 500 record our first year and took us to the World Series the year after that. So I don't really think you can look at everything underneath a microscope like that in such small sample sizes. So really, I'm hoping that consistency works to our advantage this year. And so, yeah, my expectations are that we're going to be in the mix to be a playoff team with 6 teams making it from each league. The odds are still pretty good for a solid team to make it, especially when half the league is rebuilding. So I'll be disappointed if we don't make the playoffs.
Yes, sir. I think everybody, for the most part, when they say they're rebuilding, they're not officially rebuilding until they start losing again. But yeah, I do think this team can compete. You got a lot of big names on there. You got a pretty solid rotation, so I think you can definitely compete. But again, it depends on how the other guys in your division work out. Very strong, as you stated. Mike, I do appreciate you coming on, my friend. I know you're a very busy guy. I appreciate you taking time out of your day answering some questions, my friend.
Zach, thanks so much for having me. Great questions. I really enjoyed talking with you, and good luck to your Braves this year.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. Well, that's about it with Mr. Mike Lowe. I appreciate him coming on. He is the general manager of the Los Angeles Angels. He is the commissioner of SSG baseball, and he's pretty much runs the entire website in this community that we have. So I will always look to Mike and really, give him a good pat on the back, because he's done an amazing job. Also, you got Paul and Jason who run this league as well. So always look out and say thank you to them. Again, for some announcements, make sure you go on Stats Plus. You sign in. You tell Paul you signed in. He will link your account. You're done. That's all you need to do. Everybody needs to have it done. I've said it twice already. Make sure we get that done. Also, go look on the website. We got a lot of stuff on there. Jim's been posting about his coaching change. I've got some stuff on there. I know there's even some football articles. So if you're not a baseball only guy, go look at it. Go have some fun with it. And I do want to touch on something before I end. Mike touched on it in that very last question about coaches, firing coaches. I want to make sure everybody kind of understands that, you know, from what I said earlier with the firing of Rimnick, um, you know, it's not one person that does it. It could be a whole team. It could be a lot of factors. There's a lot of stuff that worked out for Mike, but then last year it just blew up. So let's not jump to a conclusion, because I do think that Rimnick is a very good a coach, and I think if I hadn't assigned Bill Kruger last week, I would be all up on him. I mean, he's a good looking candidate. So again, guys, just and also want to touch on this rebuilding that we're talking about. We talked about it in the chat, and late last week about late this week, early this week, about just how rebuilding. Don't underestimate the time it takes to rebuild. Um, it really doesn't take long. This is a simulation league. Don't get caught up in rebuilding, because you'll never go anywhere. Be like Mike says, go out there and compete and rebuild if you absolutely have to. And again, it's not going to take as long as you think, because this is a simulation. There's a lot of trades that happen. There's a lot of things that happen that doesn't happen in real life. So real life, there's more money into players. There's more resources. There's more time. And this is, of course, a simulation league. So don't underestimate how long it takes to quote unquote rebuild. But anyways, guys, I appreciate everybody coming. I had a lot of fun talking to Mike. This, I believe, is episode 5. Anyways, I've had a lot of fun, and I appreciate everybody. If you enjoy this, just let me know, and I'll continue to do it. I do have more guests. At least 2 more people have reached out to me, and I'm going to touch base with them late this week about getting some interviews in. So if you feel interested in doing this, reach out to me either on Slack or shoot me an email. My email's on the website. I hope everybody had a great day. This is Yato with the Weekly Brew. Have a good one.